You already know the first three: cut, bulk, keto. Your dad has heard of keto, but the internet took dieting somewhere your dad has not been. Past the gym, past the forums, into places where people stop eating for 4 days and call it a protocol. Where people eat one animal and call it medicine. Where people stop eating almost entirely because a model has hollow cheeks. 10 levels. They start where everyone starts, and each one goes further down than the last. The 10th one isn't a diet at all, it just wears one. Nobody here is telling you what to eat. This is what these things are, why people do them, and what gets claimed on both sides. Number 1. Cutting. Cutting is eating less than you burn, on purpose, for a set stretch of time, to lose fat while holding on to muscle. That's the whole idea. Every diet further down this list is either a variation on it or a reaction against it. The appeal is that it's the only thing here that's boring and works. Pick a deficit, keep protein high, lift, wait. Bodybuilders have been doing exactly this for 80 years, and the method hasn't needed updating. The most famous cut in the world wasn't a bodybuilder, though. Christian Bale went from 173 pounds to 110 for the machinist, living on a can of tuna and an apple a day. He looked like a diagram of a man. He's since said he won't do it again because of what the swings did to his heart, which is the honest version of cutting. It works, it's simple, and the harder you push it, the less it's about fat. Number 2, bulking. The opposite. You eat more than you burn so your body has material to build with, and you accept that some of the weight arriving isn't muscle. Bulk in winter, cut in spring. The whole thing is meant to be a cycle. Bulking exists because muscle is expensive. You cannot build tissue out of nothing, and every actor who's turned up on screen as a superhero has done a version of this. Hemsworth ate his way into Thor with a former Navy SEAL for a trainer, heavy weights, and a great deal of red meat. The argument against it is that most people bulk far harder than the biology justifies. The muscle a natural lifter can add in a year is measured in single-digit pounds. The fat is not. So you spend 4 months getting bigger and 3 months undoing most of what you did. Do that badly enough, or for long enough, and you arrive at number 7. We'll get there. Number 3. Keto. Drop carbohydrates low enough for long enough and your body switches fuel. It starts running on fat and producing ketones, and that state is where the name comes from. Meat, eggs, cheese, oil. No bread, no rice, no sugar, and for most people, no fruit. Keto isn't an internet invention. It was a clinical treatment for epilepsy in the 1920s, and it still is one. What the internet did was take it out of the hospital and resell it as a body composition tool. The pitch is appetite. People on keto tend to eat less without trying, because fat and protein sit heavier than carbohydrates do. The counterpitch is that it's socially miserable. You will be the person at the restaurant asking what's in the sauce, and that most people can't hold it for a year. There's also a fair complaint that a chunk of keto's dramatic first fortnight is water weight, and it comes straight back the moment you eat a potato. This is the last level your parents have heard of. Number 4. Intermittent fasting. Not what you eat. When. You compress eating into a window, 8 hours, 6, 4, and outside it you don't eat. 16-8 is the standard version, and it's about as mainstream as this list gets. Part of the reasoning is simple arithmetic. A shorter window usually means fewer calories almost by accident. The other part is a set of claims about what the body does when it isn't busy digesting. That second half is where the arguments live, and they're still live. Then there's the version the internet actually cares about. GOMAD. 1 meal a day. 23 hours of nothing, 1 hour of everything. Jack Dorsey eats this way. So does Bruce Springsteen. And GOMAD is where this list starts tilting. 16-8 is a schedule. GOMAD is a personality. Once eating becomes something you do once, the hours you spend not doing it start to feel like an accomplishment, and that's a different relationship with food than the one you walked in with. Number 5. Carnivore. Beef, eggs, salt, water. That's the diet. Everything that isn't an animal is out. No vegetables, no fruit, no grains, no exceptions. It was one of the biggest diet trends of last year, and the appeal isn't nutritional, it's cognitive. Every other diet here demands decisions, tracking, judgment calls about whether oat milk counts. Carnivore has one rule, and the rule is unambiguous. For people worn out by macros and labels, that single rule is the entire product. The testimonials are remarkably consistent. Less bloating, clearer skin, fewer autoimmune flare-ups. They're also almost entirely anecdotal, and the sheer volume of them is doing most of the persuading. Rogan did a Carnivore January and talked about it for a month afterwards. Jordan Peterson eats this way. Both reported feeling substantially better, and both reported some grim digestive weeks on the way there. The standing objection from dietitians is the obvious one. You've deleted every source of fiber and most of your vitamins, and you're covering the gap with organ meat and optimism. Number 6. GOMAD. Gallon of milk a day. You eat your normal meals, and then, between them, you drink 4 liters of whole milk. That's roughly 2,400 extra calories, and it is the most efficient weight gain method ever devised by people who weren't being paid to gain weight. Mark Ripito put it in Starting Strength in the early 2000s, and it became forum scripture. Skinny teenagers who swore they couldn't gain weight were told the same 2 things: squat and drink. And it works. It works alarmingly well, because it turns out that if a thin 19-year-old drinks a gallon of milk on top of 3 meals, he gets bigger. Ripito never claimed to have invented it. Piri Rader was pushing milk and heavy squats in the 1930s, and Charles Atlas was selling something similar before that. GOMAD is one of the oldest ideas in lifting, wearing a new acronym. The problem is the one you'd guess. A gallon of milk a day is an enormous amount of milk. Your digestion will have opinions, and a good deal of what it adds is not muscle. Number 7. Permabulk. Bulking with no end date. You start a bulk, you never run the cut, and at some point the bulk stops being a phase and becomes simply how you eat. What makes Permabulk worth talking about is who it borrows from. Strongmen genuinely eat like this. Eddie Hall was putting away 12 to 15,000 calories a day at his peak. Brian Shaw described it as doing an eating challenge every single day for years. But listen to how Hall actually talks about it. He ate that way to be as big and strong and powerful as possible for one day, competition day, and then, in his words, stop eating like a pig. There was a reason, and there was an end date, and he hit both. Permabulk is that same eating with neither. The competition never arrives. The cut is permanently next month. And because the internet made it a joke, someone doing it can call himself a permabulker, get a laugh, and never have the conversation. That's the move this level runs. It puts a funny name on something, and the name does the work of making it fine. Number 8. The Lion Diet. Carnivore was beef, eggs, salt, and water. The Lion Diet removes the eggs. Ruminant meat, beef, lamb, plus salt, plus water. Nothing else indefinitely. It is comfortably the most restrictive diet on this list that people actually follow. It comes from Michaela Peterson, who built it as an elimination protocol rather than a lifestyle. She'd had severe autoimmune disease since childhood, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis that wrecked her hip and ankle joints, a long list of medications by her early 20s, and she stripped her diet down piece by piece until the symptoms stopped. Her father did it too, which is the reason you've heard of it at all. Here's what's actually being argued about. Elimination dieting is a real clinical technique. Strip to almost nothing, then reintroduce foods slowly to find the trigger. The dispute is over the second half. Peterson didn't reintroduce, and a great many people without her condition adopted the endpoint of someone else's medical emergency as a permanent way of eating. The concern nutritionists raise isn't the beef, it's the years. Number 9. The snake diet. Now we're past food entirely. The snake diet is fasting for 48 to 96 hours at a stretch, drinking only an electrolyte mixture called snake juice, water, pink salt, potassium chloride, Epsom salts, then eating inside a 1 or 2 hour window, then starting the fast again. The stated premise is that humans evolved through famine, and a snake eats once and then doesn't for a week, so a human body ought to run the same way. That's the theory in full. There isn't more of it. It comes from Cole Robinson, who describes himself as a fasting coach. No such credential exists. He has no background in medicine, biology, or nutrition, and claims attached to the diet over the years have included curing cancer, diabetes, and chronic inflammation. The criticism isn't purely medical either. Robinson's marketing runs on before and after photographs and a lot of open fat shaming, and dietitians have made the point that a weight loss method built on humiliation reliably attracts the people least able to afford it. Which points at what the snake diet is actually selling. It isn't the fasting, it's permission to stop eating. Number 10, Starvemaxxing. Bottom of the list, and it isn't really a diet. It starts somewhere reasonable. On looks maxing forums, the word is lean maxing. Getting body fat low enough that bone structure shows through. Cheekbones, jawline. Those boards call it the number one looks max, the single change that does the most. And as goals go, it's an ordinary one: get lean. Starvemaxxing is lean maxing with the floor taken out. Not eating reframed as a facial aesthetics strategy. The reference point in most of the reporting is the model, Jordan Barrett. Hollow cheeks, hard angles, and the logic runs that if less fat sharpens a face, then less food, indefinitely, sharpens it forever. Doctors describe this in the vocabulary of eating disorders because that's the thing being described. Restriction, a body image target, and a community handing out approval for it. And the community's answer is that it's satire. Some of it genuinely is. That's exactly the problem. When the joke and the symptom use identical words, nobody ever has to say which one they meant, including the person saying it. 10 levels, and the shape is the same the whole way down. Near the top, a diet is something you do. Near the bottom, it's something you are. I'm Vellum. Thanks for watching all the way through, and please consider subscribing to show me I should make more videos.